Mary Kay's report isn't just a coaching update. It's an exposure of Cleveland's unraveling structure. The leak that Kevin Stefanski may surrender play calling to Tommy Reed's suggests the Browns are no longer trying to patch over problems. They're bracing for a full-scale rewire. This is more than a strategic pivot. It's a reaction to the relentless dysfunction that's taken hold of the team. A locker room fractured by confusion, a front office stalled by indecision, and a fan base exhausted by deja vu.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
That this shift is even on the table says everything about how unstable things have become behind the scenes. The conversation can't stop at who calls the plays. It has to confront why this chaos exists in the first place. From Stefanski's unwillingness to adapt, to the mishandling of Shedeur Sanders, to the baffling trust in Dillon Gabriel, Cleveland's trajectory has been shaped by repeated judgment errors. Reed's taking control and Sanders stepping back into the spotlight could give this team a pulse again, but only if the leadership finally acts with urgency and clarity. The Cleveland Browns have hit a breaking point. This isn't just about a struggling offense or a few bad losses. It's deeper, it's structural, and now, thanks to insider reporting from Mary Kay, we're seeing exactly how serious it is. Kevin Stefanski might be stepping away from calling plays. Tommy Reed's could be stepping in. And Shedeur Sanders, after being benched, shelved, and overlooked, is finally back in the conversation. Let's be blunt. This is a crisis response. The Browns aren't making these changes out of innovation. They're doing it because the walls are closing in. The offense is flat. The locker room is tired. The fans are beyond frustrated. The media has turned, and the pressure is suffocating. This team is bleeding, and the people in charge have finally realized the Band-Aids aren't working. This possible shift, Stefanski giving up control, Reed's taking the wheel, Sanders re-entering the fold, isn't just a tactical tweak. It's an indictment, an admission that the current structure is failing. And the message behind it is loud. Something had to give. It should have happened sooner. Let's not rewrite history here. Shedeur Sanders has been ready. Not perfect. Not finished. But ready. The signs were there. The tools were obvious. The promise was undeniable. And yet he was benched, disregarded, held back in favor of Dillon Gabriel, whose performances have been anything but inspiring. This wasn't about quarterback development. This was about stubbornness. Stefanski stuck with his guy. He stuck with his system. He stuck with a version of the offense that never adapted. And while the game slipped away, the offense stayed stuck in neutral. Repetitive play calls. Weak adjustments. No rhythm. No identity. It wasn't just bad, it was predictable. Meanwhile, the fans watched it all unravel. They saw Sanders wasting away on the bench. They saw the team continue to stall out while no one took accountability. And they were right to be angry. They are right to be angry because all of this was avoidable. Now, with the heat turned all the way up, the Browns are trying to reverse course. Stefanski reportedly stepping back is a major move. It's the kind of decision you only make when you're out of options. He's been the primary play caller since day one. It's been his offense, his design, his control. And now, that control is slipping. If Tommy Reed's is really about to take over, this could be the turning point. Reed's brings a different mindset. He hasn't been molded in Stefanski's image. He's not married to outdated schemes or loyalty-based depth charts. Reed's has been waiting for a chance to bring pace, energy, and unpredictability back to an offense that has become completely lifeless. But the question is, will the Browns actually let him lead? Because if Stefanski still has a say in the background, if Reed's has to fight for control mid-game, then none of this matters. You can't have a new play caller working under the shadow of the old one. You either hand over the keys or you don't. The Browns need clarity. The locker room needs clarity. The fans deserve clarity. And they need it fast. This isn't just about the next game. This is about what kind of team the Browns want to be. Right now, the identity is chaos. A divided leadership group. A head coach potentially being stripped of his signature role. A young quarterback caught in the middle of a political football. A fan base exhausted by years of being told to be patient while nothing changes. But this is a real shot to change direction. If Reeds takes over fully, and if Sanders is actually allowed to lead the offense with confidence and structure, then maybe this team finds its spark again. Because that's what's been missing. Not just talent, not just execution, but belief, identity, a plan that reflects what's actually happening on the field, not just what worked once upon a time. Shedeur Sanders represents more than a personnel change. He represents the reset this team desperately needs. His story, his patience, his refusal to fold under pressure, it mirrors what the Browns would be if they stopped getting their own way. He's been through the setbacks. He's taken the criticism. He's waited while lesser performances were prioritized. And he's still here. That's leadership. But for that to matter, the coaching staff has to stop hedging, stop playing scared, stop pretending like Dylan Gabriel is still the best option. The offense isn't broken because of a few bad throws or missed reads. It's broken because of the structure behind it. And now they have the opportunity to rebuild. A new play caller, a new quarterback, a new tone. That's the kind of change that could win back this locker room. Because make no mistake, players know when things are off. They know when the best guys aren't playing. They know when game plans aren't working. And when that disconnect goes on too long, trust erodes. Motivation fades. Finger-pointing starts. You fix that by being bold. You fix that by finally rewarding merit over familiarity. You fix that by sending a message. The best players will play, and the people responsible for the game plan will be the ones most qualified to lead it, not just the ones who have tenure. The front office now faces a choice. They can either double down on the past or lean into the future. And that future includes Reeds and Sanders. Not because they're magic fixes, but because they represent a new direction, one built on urgency and accountability, not habit and hierarchy. But this window won't stay open forever. If Cleveland hesitates again, if they stall or second-guess or backtrack, they won't just lose more games. They'll lose the locker room. The media already smells blood. The fans are already over it. One more misstep, one more fake pivot, and the whole thing could spiral. This isn't just about fixing the offense. This is about rebuilding credibility. The Browns have spent too long coasting on potential. Now it's time for action. If you've been waiting for the moment this franchise finally wakes up, hit that like button. Share this with someone who's been shouting about Sanders since week 2. And drop your thoughts in the comments. Should Stefanski step away completely? Is Tommy Reeds the spark this offense has been missing? Is Shedeur Sanders a guy to lead this team forward? And if you want to stay locked in as this story unfolds, because you know it's far from over, subscribe. Because Cleveland might finally be making the right moves, or they're about to flame out in the most Browns way possible. Either way, you won't want to miss it. Everything that's happened in the last few days has turned up the pressure to an absolutely unbearable level. The whispers of Kevin Stefanski losing his grip on play calling. The rising noise around Tommy Reed stepping in. The resurrection of Shedeur Sanders' name in quarterback discussions. This isn't just some mid-season recalibration. It's a complete unraveling of the Browns' chain of command. And now, whether they want it or not, they have to make decisions that actually mean something. For too long, Cleveland's leadership has specialized in the art of hesitation. Decisions get made only when the fan base revolts or the media starts circling like vultures. But when it comes to actually leading, when it comes to recognizing talent, owning mistakes, or adjusting a failing structure, this franchise has dragged its feet until they couldn't anymore. That's why this moment matters. Because this time, the walls are too thin. The dysfunction is too loud. The silence is no longer an option. They've run out of places to hide. You don't leak a story about Stefanski handing off play calling if everything is stable behind the scenes. That kind of report doesn't drop unless someone inside the building is sending a message. This isn't working. And the reason it's not working isn't because of one bad game or one bad decision. It's because of a pattern of bad decisions, a pattern of clinging to outdated systems, protecting underperformers, and punishing anyone who challenges the status quo. And at the center of that has been Shedeur Sanders. Let's talk about what this kid's been through. Drafted into a system that never fit him. Buried behind a quarterback he was clearly more talented than. Given no developmental arc, no tailored scheme, no real investment, just a seat on the bench and a whole lot of vague coach speak about readiness and patience. And still, Shedeur didn't make noise. He didn't complain. He didn't throw anyone under the bus. He stayed in it. He stayed ready. Meanwhile, Dylan Gabriel kept starting week after week in an offense that went nowhere. The Browns kept selling fans on consistency and trusting the process, all while ignoring the one person on the roster who actually could have changed things. Sanders was treated like a long-term project, not a real option, as if somehow getting a young quarterback actual reps was riskier than continuing to ride with mediocrity. That's what this all comes back to. Fear. This team has been operating from a place of fear for far too long. Fear of disrupting the hierarchy. Fear of being wrong. Fear of letting go of control. And now, after backing themselves into a corner with their conservative choices, they're being forced to do the thing they should have done weeks ago. Turn the page. So what now? Well, if the reporting is accurate, we're on the verge of a total offensive shakeup. Tommy Reed's taking over would mark the first real shift in vision since Stefanski arrived. This is a guy who, until now, has had to play second fiddle to a system that was locked in concrete. But Reed's isn't Stefanski. He doesn't come from the old school, manage the clock and don't mess up philosophy. He's got juice. He wants tempo. He wants aggression. And more importantly, he's not attached to the same tired excuses. And if you're going to give Shedeur Sanders a shot, that's the kind of coach you need behind him. Reeds and Sanders together might actually give the Browns a chance to reset their entire offensive identity. Not in a year. Not down the line. Now, but here's the catch. This isn't going to work unless the Browns go all in. No more committee-style leadership. No more dual QB nonsense. No more Stefanski lingering over the offense trying to collaborate. That's done. This team needs clarity, decisiveness, and commitment. If Tommy Reeds is calling the plays, he calls the plays. Period. And if Shedeur Sanders is starting, then he's a starter. Full stop. Because the locker room, they're watching. Players know when the leadership is bluffing. They know when decisions are about politics instead of performance. And if the staff tries to split the difference, give Sanders a few drives, keep Stefanski hovering around the headset, they're going to lose the players. And let's be honest, they're already close to doing that. This team has looked disjointed. There's no fight, no fire. And that doesn't just happen because of poor execution. That happens when players stop believing that the people making decisions know what they're doing. And right now, the Browns have given them every reason to doubt it. The decisions this week will either rebuild that trust or destroy it completely. Because what's at stake here isn't just a spot in the standings. It's not even about this season anymore. It's about whether the Browns can actually grow up as a franchise, whether they can take accountability, own their missteps, and commit to something new. Because for once, the path is right there. A talented young quarterback who stayed focused despite being sidelined. A play caller who has fresh ideas and no loyalty to what's failing. A fan base literally begging this team to stop lying to itself. What more do they need? Sanders represents everything the Browns say they want to be. Resilient, dynamic, tough under pressure. But the question now is whether they'll actually let him lead. Whether they'll build around his strengths. Whether they'll allow a system that moves, that creates space, that gives this offense life. Because right now, this offense doesn't scare anyone. They're static, predictable, and worst of all, boring. The kind of team you schedule your Sunday around not watching. And that's devastating in a league where energy and explosiveness are everything. This is their shot to change that. But if they waste it, if they drag their feet or let Stefanski creep back into control, then all of this goes out the window. It'll be another season of what could have been. Another chapter in a book of regrets. The fans deserve better. The players deserve better. Sanders deserves better. So here's the bottom line. The Browns have finally reached their fork in the road. Down one path is something new. Maybe it's messy. Maybe it's not perfect. But it's different. It has potential. It has energy. It has leadership that's earned, not inherited. Down the other path, more of the same. old habits, passive play calling, manufactured QB controversies, and a franchise that never quite figures it out. It's time to choose. There's no walking this back now. The leaks are out. The whispers have become headlines. Stefanski's grip on the Browns' offense is slipping, and whether he likes it or not, the public now knows there's real movement behind the scenes. For a coach who's defined his tenure with control, meticulous, tight-lipped, play-it-safe control, this isn't just a tactical shift. It's a full-blown loss of power. And honestly, it's overdue. Kevin Stefanski's brand of football has always been about structure. Disciplined, conservative, smart football, but when that system stops working, when the offense turns into a slog and your best talent is sidelined for loyalty picks, structure turns into stagnation. And that's exactly what's happened in Cleveland. This team isn't suffering from bad luck. They're suffering from bad decisions. And the decision to keep Shedeur Sanders buried on the bench while Dylan Gabriel limped through games, that one might haunt the Browns for years. Because let's be clear, this isn't a rookie versus veteran debate. This isn't about protecting a young quarterback. This is about refusal. A refusal to admit that the quarterback you back publicly isn't getting it done. A refusal to adjust the offense to fit the personnel you have, not the one you wish you had. Sanders has been ready. Maybe not perfect, maybe not flawless, but absolutely more than capable of running this offense better than what we've seen. His time on the bench wasn't about development. It was about ego, and now that the team is staring down a collapsing season, suddenly the door is cracking open? That's not a strategic shift. That's damage control. The most damning part? The locker room knows it. And that's where this gets dangerous. Because once you lose a locker room, it's over. No scheme, no talent, no amount of clever game planning can fix the fact that your players no longer trust the decisions coming from the top. They know Shedeur is the better quarterback. They've seen it in practice. They've watched the games. They've lived the same frustrations that fans have screamed about for weeks. If the Browns had made this switch earlier, given Reeds a reins, built a system around Sanders' strengths, leaned into tempo and unpredictability, this season could have looked completely different. But instead, they chose to protect the structure, to delay, to defend the status quo until it collapsed under its own weight. Now, all they can do is try to pick up the pieces, but the clock is ticking. If Stefanski really is stepping back, that means his franchise is entering uncharted territory. He's not just a head coach. He's been a guy running the offense, calling the shots, crafting the identity. Without that, we're going to find out just how deep the dysfunction really goes. Because Tommy Reeds, he's stepping into a minefield. On the surface, it sounds great. New voice, new ideas. But the second things don't go perfectly. If Sanders throws a pick or the offense struggles early, you can already hear the narratives forming. Maybe Stefanski should take it back. Maybe Reeds isn't ready. Maybe Sanders isn't the guy after all. But that would miss the entire point. This change, if it's real, has to be allowed to breathe, to develop. You don't fix months of bad decision-making in one drive or one quarter. You give it time. You commit to it. That's the test here. Not just whether Reeds and Sanders can bring life back to the offense, but whether the organization is brave enough to let them try without panicking at the first sign of struggle. Because panic is what got them into this mess. That panic is what led to the bizarre loyalty to Gabriel. It's what fed the refusal to alter the offense, even when it was clearly broken. It's what caused this team to wait until fans were boiling over before acknowledging what needed to happen. And now there's no more buffer. No more benefit of the doubt. This next chapter will define Stefanski's legacy, Reed's future, and Sanders' shot at redemption. And yes, that's exactly what this is. Redemption. Because Shedeur Sanders was never supposed to be the savior. He wasn't drafted to be the face of the franchise, not immediately. But now, through sheer patience and perseverance, he's become the symbol of change. And for the Browns, stuck in a cycle of mismanagement and underachievement, that symbol matters. Sanders stepping onto that field, helmet on, huddle under his control, is more than just a personnel decision. It's a signal that maybe, Cleveland is ready to let go of the baggage. That maybe they're ready to build something around real potential, Not just stubborn familiarity, but only if they fully commit. No safety nets. No rotating QBs. No passive-aggressive. We're still evaluating. You either hand it over to Sanders and Reeds, or you don't bother at all. The fans are watching. The media is watching. And every player in that locker room is watching even more closely. The Browns don't get another mulligan. They've already wasted enough games. Enough drives. Enough chances. This next move has to mean something. And if it doesn't, if they blink again, if they second-guess, if they sabotage this ship before it is time to take root, then they deserve every bit of criticism that's coming their way. Because you can't pretend to want change and still protect the same broken system. The playbook is on the table. Sanders is suited up. Reeds is waiting. Now it's on leadership to either step aside or step up. If you're as fired up about this as we are, hit that like button. Share this with someone who's been screaming for accountability all season. Let us know in the comments. Should Stefanski give up control permanently? Is Reeds a guy to save this offense? And is Sanders finally getting the shot he's earned? And if you want to see how this drama unfolds, whether it's a glorious turnaround or a complete implosion, subscribe. Because whatever happens next, you know Cleveland's going to do it loudly,